there. How are you all doing? It's been a little while, I know. And here we are, we're back. It's been just a smidgen under 2 months since Wicked Women was here, Val and myself. And I think we said last time we were on, it could be hit or miss. But here we are, we're here tonight. And it's a different show tonight because Val, bless her heart, I don't think she's well enough to come on. So I actually have a male Wicked, Mr. Wicked, coming on to join me to talk about a really interesting subject tonight. Before we get to that, let's just confirm to everyone you're watching Wicked Women live from London. It's just 9 minutes after 9. And I'm going to bring in Michael from Virginia and obviously the second part of the Wicked tonight. Hello, sweetie.
How you doing, honey? Most of the time I have my studio set up, but my studio's being remodeled. So
you're in al fresco.
It's it. So yeah. What is it they say from the unnamed compound and unnamed places and states? But you know, where there's a phone and there's internet, there's a way.
That's true. That's true. And there's a slight feedback which is driving me nuts.
Let me see if I can.
And I don't know what I can do about that.
Let me see if I can set my settings.
I don't know if it's mine or yours. I'm trying to move my mic away from me, so it's not getting much of a feedback. But
is that better?
I think it's just the way it is. That's much better though. Let's go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I turned my mic down, and like I said, going off the cell phone, it's different. It's not set up with the high quality mic.
So we're talking tonight about karmic love, and we were supposed to do this show for Valentine's Day, and then obviously I can't believe we're almost through the middle of April, so we decided that we wanted to come back and finish this subject. And actually it's quite an interesting subject because I watch other people go through this situation. I've been through this situation. I know you have too.
Like I said, you know, they say heart knows no time nor bounds or mileage, and it don't, and or continents. It really don't. And when you meet somebody, and it's like, damn, you know, there's a connection here. I can talk to them for hours and days.
Sure.
And it's just like, I always said that, you know, time. They always say time is linear or whatever, and the multiverse and all this. And I tell them, I said, you know, I think there's something into that, and it's. Because, you know, it's like, well, if I had made this choice or whatever, and it could go back to end up being, you know, what is it? They say past life stuff or whatever. It's like,
sure,
deja vu. It's like, oh, I know this space, or I know this spirit or this soul of this person. And people tell you you're crazy, but I have seen older couples that just seem like they fit like glue together, and it's like they have done this many lifetimes before, and it's really sweet.
What's that saying? When you know, you know. I just want to sort of look up so people know what kind of we're talking about with karmic love. So you meet someone and there's an instant connection. It feels like you've been drawn together across the universe or wherever you are by an invisible force, and it's very overpowering. It's really intoxicating. And quite addictive as well, and it can really consume you.
A familiar feel.
And you think, oh my God, this is the one. This is my soulmate. This is the twin flame. This is the one I've been waiting for, right?
Yep. Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, everything changes. And I'll give an example of this. You meet somebody. You can just hear that feedback, so I'm just going to mute you just for a second. So just okay. You meet somebody, and you know you have this amazing connection between you. You're drawn to them. You go, I talk to them for hours. They really understand me. Passion's great, chemistry's great, everything's going really well. And you spend every moment together, every single moment together, and you're this thinking, this is it, this is the one. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, you might have seen maybe a red flag, or maybe you didn't want to see it as a red flag, or you just put it to one side. Out of the sudden, they just disappear. They do a Houdini and they just disappear, and you're like, what did I say? What did I do? And you're constantly second guessing, and they may They may ignore you, they may ghost you, they may be intermittent, and it really unsettles you, because it's like, how can something so good become so bad? And also, you know, the thing about the karmic side of it as well is you think, well, this can't be right, because everything was going great, everything was wonderful, everything fit. This was meant to be, and all of a sudden, it's gone. And for me, I've had that happen quite a few times in my life. And one of the things I wanted to look at was when does the dynamic change, and also, you know, they might disappear and they might come back into your life out of the blue. Could be 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, but it's never the same, because at the end of the day, that original thing has been broken. And so most people come up with the new age word of karmic relationship, which means that they felt it was fated to meet this person, but it eventually became either difficult, volatile, or confusing. You know, and I think, Michael, when we talk about this, whether it's a marriage, whether it's you know, any kind of relationship, do you find, I mean, if you had this happen to you, if you had them like come in and being amazing and wonderful, and the next minute gone?
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's like, yeah, I always said that you look past a lot of red flags in the beginning because you're high on dopamine, and it's like, oh, I cannot get enough of this. Then and so I always called it an overdose of love, because you know all the red flags that are there, and people know, I've worked all over the country, and I've had different helpers that come and work for me, and we'd work in the hospitals and stuff like that. And I had one in particular. I'd always tell him, just because it's tattooed and wears scrubs and has daddy issues, that is not love. Go get in the truck. And he's like,
Mm.
oh, what do you mean? I need more of that. I was like, no, you don't. That is not good for your soul. And he's like, oh yeah, but I was like, no, that is a walking red flag. And he's like, oh, I
So
don't see it.
what you
And
mean
I'm
is,
blinded.
what you mean aware is that you know somebody that's been in this situation, and you have said to them, you know, this is bad, this is toxic. Because the thing is, Michael, when you meet people, I don't know about you, I've had quite a few karmic relationships, and when you meet them, you think to yourself, wow, you know, like, and nothing and nobody will tell you any different, because your heart and your whole body is saying, you know, this is different. Karmic relationship is not officially used, by the way, in any kind of religion or psychotherapy, but it does have ancient spiritual roots. What it actually means is obviously karma, such as Buddhism. Karma is the belief that actions and behaviors have consequences. For every action, there is a reaction. And in some Eastern religions, it's believed that those consequences will impact you not only in this life, but also in the next. Therefore, if we're involved in a karmic relationship, Michael, we are actually involved with unfinished business from a past life where you've been brought again to meet each other to close that chapter and what's undone. What's your sort of feeling on that?
That's like we've talked before on Wicked Women. I have an uncanny pull to the UK, to London. And I've done my ancestry.com, and I know, and I got family buried in one of the abbeys there. And I want to come, meet you and your mom. But it's just like there's a whole pull that is pulling me, and I can't explain it. I've been to Europe, and I was like, don't impress me. I'm an American, But for some reason now, there's just a really pull, and no matter, and it's almost like an uphill fight. Every time I think that I'm getting ahead, passport in hand, money in hand, things go tits up, and it's like, what the hell? I thought I'd be on a Dreamliner by now, but like I said, but there is a pull to the UK for me for some reason, and I don't know if it's something in a past life, just people that I've crossed paths with previously that I can't explain, because I cannot explain
Mm.
what the draw is. Because and I tell them, everybody's like, "Why do you want to go to Europe for?" I was like, "I don't know." You know what I'm
Something
saying?
pulling you.
It is pulling me, and it's like, And we've talked about this a lot, offline, and I'm like, and it's like, it tracks all the way back from the Mayflower. And I'm like, my ancestries got on a boat and sailed for 6 months to a land that was unexplored with all the wilds of America, and they fought to get away. And I'm trying to get back to see where I came from.
Mm.
And like I said, and I tell people, they look at me, oh, you big old guy, you believe in past lives and ghosts and spirits, and they think you're crazy. I tell them, I said, don't never play games with the universe. It will bite you in your ass. The universe knows where you need to go.
Have you ever met anyone in your life and had a relationship with someone where you felt like you've known them from before and they've disappeared and come back? Or have you had that kind of relationship where you've met someone and you feel there's something there that needs to be finished, fulfilled?
Yes. I'm using something. Okay. Yeah, I have. Like I said, we talked about that before. It's like I can't explain why I have this connection, with this person, and it's like, and it seems like when you're on the right track, you have more things to fight uphill to get it fulfilled. It's almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like you're being tested, and you got to go through these different things to get. Every time, as like I said, every time you think you're getting somewhere, the universe says, "How bad do you really want it?
Mm.
Is this a test you have to pass so you can get to the next level?" And I've had that a few times, and it's like I'm trying my best here. Why do you keep wanting to test me for? But I
Did you have a relationship with somebody where, as in a past relationship, where you look back now and go, that was something that was karmic and that needed to be finished?
yes, and I'm still working on it. And but like I said, the universe plays games with you too when it comes to that. Cause it's almost like a test to see how bad you want it, either money or health or just little things. It'll throw a spanner, as you would say, into the clockwork, as the ranch for all my American brothers. First time I heard spanner, I was like, yeah, what are you spanning? But no, it's like, but like I said, and a lot of times I do think that we have to pass certain tests, from life to life, to go on to the next level. And I think you cross paths with people in your past lives that you do have a connection that you cannot
Sure.
explain. You don't know where it comes from, and you don't know why it's there. But it's like, you know them inside and out. You know their little quirks and twists, and you can have a 4-day conversation and never be bored. And you can't explain it because most of the time when you meet somebody new, you're like all clammed up inside. It's like, oh, I don't want to say nothing stupid. Then you meet somebody that you felt like you've known forever, for millennia, and it just pours out of you. And you've seen that with me, and I'm like, normally I don't. I've been known to do some questionable shit in my day, and most of the time I keep it pretty close to the chest because the statute of limitations has not run out.
Yeah.
And but when you just feel like you can open up, or when you open up and you don't have any control about opening up, and it just pours out, and it's like, I need to shut the hell up, but I can't. It's like they say here, you have the right to remain silent. You do not have the ability. And I'm like, and I've seen that, and you've seen that happen with me. It's like, let me ask you a question. It's like, damn, I need to shut up, but I can't.
I,
And it
I,
just,
I know that one well, because I have asked that, and it has been said to me before. Why am I telling you things that I would normally never tell anybody? And I think, whether it's the energy, I don't know. But the thing is, not all karmic relationships are bad. They are. The one good thing about a karmic relationship, it helps you grow. There's a specific lesson you're supposed to learn in your lifetime. And you found this person in this lifetime because there's a lesson playing out, whether it's for you or whether it's for them. But I think most relationships, we have unhealed past wounds, maybe from other relationships. from somewhere perhaps we just don't know. We're attracted to people who subconsciously activate these wounds. So if someone is, it's almost like you meet someone who presses your buttons, triggers you with something as well. So like this unfinished business coming from the past into the present. For me, it was very, very difficult. I've, as I said, I've had quite a few karmic relationships in my time, and it was incredibly painful because I did feel like, you know, I could talk to this person about everything, and there was an amazing connection between us, Michael. And you just sort of got to a point where you're like, and then when they just disappear, when they just go, or something happens, it makes you question everything. So I wanted to bring up the signs of the 8 signs of a karmic relationship, because I think that's really important that people know. And as I say, like Val, bless her heart, should be here tonight, but sadly she is not feeling well. So Mr. Wicked is in here for a change. She was the gentleman's experience. So let's have a look at karmic relationship. The 8 signs are in it. Feeling an immediate, powerful connection to the other person. Having a sense that you know this person, they're familiar, you've met before. Patterns of ongoing conflict. So a pattern is happening again. They might act a certain way. You might act a certain way. The same thing is happening again and again. Noticing unresolved challenges from past relationships or your childhood. So you're in this relationship and all of a sudden you're starting to bring up triggers or things from a previous marriage or childhood, and it's like, where's that come from? I haven't thought about that in years. Where's that come from? Feeling a sense of obligation, like I feel like I owe this person, or I need to do this for this person, rather than sometimes connection. It can feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster. There will be immense attraction, like when you meet, you'll be like, wow, just wow. And I have been there myself. You know, I remember, you know, going on a date and just having this amazing out of body experience, and actually felt like I was sitting here and yet the other half of me was sitting where they were, you know, almost on their lap. And I think that's when you sort of know that you've met someone where you have this kind of connection from. But you can also have repulsion as well. Not just, you can meet someone and go, well, there's something there about this person that just makes me feel sick or whatever, repulsed, and also emotional burnout. Now, is there something, Michael, that you can bring up at one of your relationships that you, not so much the good side of it, but when you were involved with someone where they kept coming back and you get with them and you'd be like, why am I with them again? Have you had sort of a similar experience?
I've not had that, but I have met people that I've never met before, and just something about their whole vibe, and it's like, I know this person, and it's like I don't want nothing to do with the person, and it's like, and you cannot explain why you don't want nothing to do with them. It's just
Sure.
something in your soul is telling you, stay away from this person. It's not going to end well for you or them either. And I have run into people like that, and I'm like, and I can't explain it, but like I said, I always say, go with your gut.
Go with your gut. Keith, like, you're welcome to come on. I've put the link. Yes, I did put the link there. That's fine. Keith says he's been in a few of them, and I have. I mean, I look back over my life and I think the abusive relationship I was in, why would I go back again and again and again? It's almost like I couldn't stop myself, like I was a moth to the flame. I knew what I was going back to. I knew exactly how it was going to go, but I couldn't stop myself. And then I'll be like, what am I doing here? And then it was this emotional roller coaster. And then also, I think when someone behaves so badly towards us, Michael, you know, and we let them in again and again and again. Why are we doing that? Sometimes I want to say, why are we doing this? Why are we letting them in?
Yeah,
is it because we feel like we owe them something?
Yeah, my mama used to say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And it's like I was talking to a friend earlier, and she said, you was raised by a lot of strong and wise women. I said, the older I get, the more I see that. I said, you know, they was raised in a time where they had to stand their ground, and and it wasn't always easy for a strong, independent, opinionated woman to, make it through the world easy. And and I feel very blessed to be raised by grandmothers and my mom that was very strong and did not have a problem with
I get it completely. But do you think that it's, from a guy's point of view, do you feel like sometimes you've been in a toxic relationship and you feel like you want to leave and you want to go, but you've stayed and you're like, why am I staying? Is there something pulling back to me? Or did you feel like you could leave? We've got Michael having a few issues there, so I'm going to bring up some points.
Hang on just a second. I'll be right back.
Okay, no worries. Keith, you're very welcome to come on. Be good to hear from your point of view. I am literally just trying to sort this out here because we have a few technical problems. But let's have a look about a karmic relationship, because what do you do if you're in one? Where do you go? What do you do? How do you get out of it? Because sometimes we know we're in one and we don't want to be in one. So let's have a look, because I did some sort of research today and had a look, and it says we're all looking for our soulmate, our twin flame, etc., whatever you want to call them. And I think that sometimes when we meet someone, we think, wow, this is the person I've been waiting to meet, the other half of me. The connection is magnetic. You're like magnets. And sometimes the bond is so quickly and so strong that you think, wow, and then it can become quite toxic, volatile and exhausting. And even though you care about each other so deeply, sometimes it can be very, very hard to get out of those situations. I have to apologize for any snoring noises you hear, because that's coming from underneath the table, and that would be the puppy. So Keith's going to come on a minute. That would be great. The other thing as well, not all karmic relationships, as we say, go down in flames, because there's no rule stating that two people can't learn and grow together for a more positive future. And I think that we're down here to learn. We're down here to learn on this planet for a very good reason. And I think that all relationships, and let's look at friendships, for instance. Thanks, Michael. I can see he's back now. With friendships, you can have a very, very close friendship. It's almost, you know each other inside out. You're best friends, you're really, really close friends, and then they hurt you, and they literally smash your heart in half, and you're like, wow, I never saw that coming. I didn't see where that was coming. What did I do? And I think the thing is, what is this showing us? What are we learning from? I think it's not just I was just saying about friendships. I think also with friendships, I don't know about you, Michael, have you had friendships where you've had a very close, you feel like this is my not brothers in arms, but this is my, I'm my brother, and yet they've turned around and treated you badly.
Yeah, and that's hard for people to deal with when they think they have been, once trust is broken. They say don't burn bridges you plan on crossing again. Sure. And a lot of people burn bridges, and they like, well, I don't know why this person don't want to talk to me no more. Well, you took a shit on the friendship, so and people don't understand why they don't. I'm like, you did this, and you wonder why people are not, like open arms to bring you back in, and I get it, life happens sometimes, but and if it is something that has happened in a life, you need to sit down and tell the person this is what's going on, boom, boom, because a lot of times, I know with me, I get overwhelmed, and when I get overwhelmed with the stuff that I carried home from the army stuff, I shut down, and I get very secluded for a while, and unless people know how to deal with that, they don't. That it might be off-putting to them, but I try to sit down and tell them, hey, I'm sorry about that. This is what I deal with. For me, a lot of times I shut down. I don't know why, but I do. And they said, well, nobody saw you. I was like, well, the dog saw me.
I think my experience was being in a relationship for 4.5 years with somebody who I loved very, very much. And yet it was really toxic. It was really, really karmic. And we would be together for a while and it would be wonderful and amazing. And then everything was right in the world. And then it would go downhill very, very quickly, become very toxic. And they would leave, or I would say to them, you have to go. And this happened over and over again. And I couldn't break from it because I adored them, didn't want to split up with them, wanted to make this work. And at the same time, it was like a drug. It was like I had to go back for love heroin. And I knew it was bad for me. I knew it was so bad for me, but I just couldn't say it. And they too wanted to split from this relationship, but they too, where it's like the moth to the flame, just kept coming back.
Yeah, you have withdrawals from that person. Yeah, and that's what I've said before on here. Everything goes back to chemistry and biology, and because at the end of the day, that's what makes our body up is, we're pheromones. That's what I'm saying. It's what's the word I'm looking for? On like a subatomic level, you have
self-sabotage. But the thing is, even if you're in that relationship, sometimes you just don't want to get out because it's like your need to be with them, isn't it? Is stronger than the want to leave. I remember when they would leave, I felt like my heart was ripped out and I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function. And it was like I only felt better when they came back into my life. And I think it was because there was a spiritual connection as well, because with karma, we're talking about a spiritual connection. Some relationships will never be sexual. They'll never be emotional. There's a spiritual connection between you. They're just as powerful.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what I say. When your body is stretched out over like time, space, and distance, and it's almost like you felt what you have been missing or what you have came back or reincarnated for, and it's like that's what my body was looking for. Then I get that, like I said, because that is stronger than what I'm saying. And I always say, don't never doubt, the universe, because it will burn you. And that's one thing. Play games if you want, and but I can see that. It's like there's an older movie, and I cannot remember what the name of it was, but the guy had died, and it showed a picture of his life, and he met this woman, in the afterlife or whatever. Then it showed him being born or whatever, and I'm like, and I can't remember that movie, but that makes a lot, makes a lot of sense on how that works, and I'm like, and he said, and before they reincarnate or whatever, he's like, I'll be looking for you. Then it showed him rolling through like in baby strollers, like the little boy and the little girl. And I was like, yeah, that's probably what it's like. That is probably what it's like, but I don't know. Well, there's Keith.
Hi, Keith. Welcome. It's been a while since we've been here, and it's also been a while since I've seen you. It's lovely to see you. This, I know, touches a few chords with you because I remember you and I have had conversations in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Can you give me an example of a karmic situation?
Oh, absolutely. I can give you a few. My last lesson. That's what I called her now. She was my last lesson. 9 months. And looking back over how we were introduced by the person that introduced us, I see now that I was coerced into dropping a lot of boundaries that I had set for myself. She was just getting out of a relationship, and I felt that it was a huge move for her all the way across the country. That's pretty huge for her and for me. I'd been single for 3.5 years, so it's going to take me a little getting used to the fact of having someone around again. And I felt that she needed to maybe get an apartment, keep her job, get an apartment, do some thinking, soul searching, make sure this is what she wants to do. And then all of a sudden, she's in physical danger of of abuse and mental abuse and everything else. And what does the Scorpio knight in shining armor do? Okay, I'll save you.
I'll
Yeah.
do it.
Afterwards, I found out that she lied about pretty much everything. And then when I finally stood up for myself, for the way I was being treated, which I actually finally did in a nice way, finally, I became the enemy. And she told all of her friends the same thing about me that she told me about her ex. And then when I asked for a break to see, just a couple weeks, I was going to go stay with my son and Beatrice. It's about 15 miles away. She could stay at the rental. That was after the fire. I'd still pay for everything, no problem. But I needed to get this and this straight, and she needed an opportunity to do the same thing to see if we could save the relationship somehow. And she accused me of kicking her out on the street, blah, blah, blah. You get it. And the next day she informs me that she's moving to Texas to her friend Jeanette's. Okay, that's a pretty big break, but if that's what she'd got to do. So I went back to work. I loaded up a bunch of packing boxes. I brought them home. I brought home packing paper and bubble wrap. I helped her pack her things. I loaded her vehicle. I punched the address in the phone, plugged it into her vehicle for the GPS, and I watched her go down the highway. And she called when she got there, and she kept trying to cause arguments. I said, no, I'm not going to fight with you. If you want to talk, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night. As soon as that happened, she's on the phone to her ex, begging to come home. So he flies down to Texas to drive her back, just like I flew to Pennsylvania to drive her to Nebraska. So it's a vicious cycle. But I was finally able to let her go, allow her to go, whoever I was with, because my peace was more important to me than having somebody here with me. Because being single and living alone, since I got, Shannon left, my last wife, I got over my biggest fear, and that was my fear of being alone. That is why I always ran back to my first ex-wife, because I was afraid of being alone. When me and Shannon separated, I kept trying to get back with her. I finally figured out, I looked at her activity and everything, and I didn't want any part of it. We're still friends, don't get me wrong. We help each other out if we need it. But there are certain people, I'm done. I'm done with you. There was a young lady who off and on, it was close to being in a relationship for probably 3 decades. When I was with somebody, she was single. When she was single, vice versa. Timing was never right. Well, Shannon left. She left her husband. We started talking, and we kept it on a friendship basis until we were both divorced. At least that's the way we planned it. And then all of a sudden, she disappears off the face of the earth. Blocked my phone number, blocked me on Facebook, blocked me here, blocked me there, and ran back to her toxic ex because she's not used to having a safe household, having a safe partner. She is used to chaos, drugs, abuse, etc. I understand. I never got an answer from her. That's fine. I made my own closure. I figured it out. It took me a while. But that ripped my heart out, But I've had the opportunities to be with other people, and I watched them. I'm having a hard time with words. It's TDI sitting a little bit today. Okay. But watch their actions and everything, and I'm like, I know that cycle. Okay. Yeah. Sorry,
Wendy has the special ed boys on the night because, like I said, I'm getting over a neurological issue with the shots in my back.
Yeah.
But what I take from that, and I hear that, and I've seen a lot of people go through that, and I tell them, men or women, if you don't want to be alone, buy a dog. A dog is a faithful friend.
I have a dog and a cat.
Yeah, buy a dog. And but when I heard him saying about everybody is an asshole to me. Everybody beats me. Everybody whatever. I call that a professional victimhood. Everything is always somebody else's fault. And but my mom always told me, Michael, you cannot be Captain Save a Hoe. look at the pattern that has been laid out before you.
Yeah.
And that's like I said a while ago.
It's tough though, because just to intercede before I forget this, like you meet someone. I just have to mute Michael's. You meet somebody, and literally, it looks amazing. It looks amazing that you connect spiritually, physically, emotionally. You've got this massive chemistry, and you think that everything's going fine, everything, and out of the blue, they either just stop talking to you, or they ignore you, or they gaslight you, or they breadcrumb you, or they just say, I don't want this anymore, and you're like, what do you mean you don't want it anymore? You've been over it. And it's like they are triggered. There's something about this connection between us that triggers them. And I don't know what it is, whether, as I said, it's a past relationship or it's a childhood thing. It brings up triggers. And the thing is, we don't learn. The only thing we learn from in life are the hard times. Really, they are the hard times, the hard mistakes, and the really tough times. We don't learn from the nice ones so much. We only learn from those ones. And yet, I've gone back so many times to try and make it work and give it another go and don't give up. And I look back now and I was thinking, who was running after me? Like, who was running after me when I was running after them? And I tell you who was running after me. Nobody.
Yes.
And I realized that I had, what was it about myself that felt like I had to go back? And I think, you can give someone only so many goes before you go, actually, this is really hurting now. Because, I think some people are overwhelmed by, they think, that, for instance, I'm trying to use an example here, but, we all want to meet the soulmate, don't we, Keith? We all want to meet the soulmate, the twin flame, the other half of ourselves, because that's what we've been told is missing from our lives. This person, this is the one. All those other people I kissed and got hurt by, this is the person. This is the one I've been waiting for. And the thing is, how do we know it's that person? Well, we have all these feelings. It feels like we're familiar. Everything feels great. This is the universe going, look, this is it. This is the one, right? Yeah. And then that one turns around and goes, actually, you're not the one. And I think, what are we learning from this? Are we learning from this person? Are we learning from this experience? Mm-hmm. Or are we learning from the fact that we need to let go of something? Because I don't know about you, Keith, I've had to learn the hard way that sometimes I do just need to walk away and go, I'm done. Yeah. Because I've given and given and given and given, and I can't give anymore. And, either people stay together and learn together, because you can't do one on your own.
Reciprocal relationship. I don't think I've ever had one of those.
Really?
I think, that's one thing I'm holding out for. I want somebody to be my best friend. I want somebody to help me with the housework. I want somebody to help me in the garden. I want somebody to help me with the yard work, washing the truck, washing her vehicle, going to the movies, going out to eat, going to the lake, going to the zoo. I want a partner. Yeah. And I've had some of that, but especially with the financial, that's never been there. And among other things. And that's what I'm waiting for. And they say that when you meet somebody and you feel those butterflies in your stomach and you're all excited, they say that's your intuition telling you from your past experiences and your instinct hitting your fight or flight mode. They're talking to each other, saying, this pattern, walk away. They say when you actually meet your forever person, it's going to feel calm. Yeah. And I'm happy. I have life issues, job, what have you, 3D world. But nobody can make me happy except for me. Nobody can make my partner happy except for them, but we can add to each other's happiness. And that's what I'm waiting for. So I can do that way.
When you're talking about a partner, and I think we covered this on Work to Limit before, everybody says 50-50. Yeah. Some days if your partner is sick, some days it might be 80-20.
Yes.
Other days it might be 99 to 1%, and some days you might have to carry the whole load.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that.
And but I tell them, I said, at the end of the day, a lot of people look at things unrealistically when they go into it, and it always ain't going to be sugar and spice and all it's nice.
Nope.
Some days it might be turnips.
Mm-hmm.
It might be, and I tell them, but that's what I would tell anybody, any young man that happened to be watching from a man's perspective is go in with your eyes wide open and expectations in check.
Yeah, and when you're having a conversation about something, say there's a problem with the bank account, or how much time you're spending with your friends versus your family, have the conversation, but sit down in order to listen to how that makes the other person feel.
That's it.
And instead of, while they're talking, your mind is thinking to make up a statement to where you win the argument. Shouldn't be an argument. Should be a 50-50 conversation. Okay, this is happening. It makes me feel like this. Can we find a solution? Okay, let me think about this. I didn't realize I was doing that. Let me look at my behavior.
Yeah.
You know what? You're right. I apologize.
Yeah. So see, this ain't a debate. A lot of times, I had an ex-wife. Everything that we talked about was a damn debate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was an agenda.
Yeah.
And if you did not, and finally, I'm like, this is changing my personality to somebody that I don't want it to be. I do not want to go in through every conversation waiting for a debate, having to figure out how to play chess to get the outcome that's going to suit me better because you don't know.
No relationship should be like that. I mean, in Savage Garden wrote a song saying, "I knew I loved you before I met you." Christina Perri, "I have loved you for 1,000 years. I'll love you for 1,000 more." Taylor Swift, "All along there was some invisible string tying you to me." So these already talk about relationships that they knew when they met them. There was this amazing connection. It was spiritual, but looking at a karmic relationship, it basically is our karma and reincarnation. They're both tied to religious beliefs, aren't they? They're both, like with Buddhism especially, that karma is always there waiting for all of us, and it knows where all of us live, right? And at the same time, hi, Rapid Dog. And at the same time as well, like reincarnation, you're coming down again and again, and it feels like Groundhog Day sometimes, because it's like in this reincarnation trap, are we actually going towards the light and coming down again and doing it again, or should we be running and looking behind us? You keep hearing that now, don't you?
Yeah. The one.
Have you heard that, Keith, about the reincarnation trap?
Absolutely. The you mentioned twin flame, Groundhog Day, everything. The one that disappeared, that I was talking to for 30 years. Her and I, she's very spiritual as well as I. And I've figured out a few of my past lives, but this one, her and I have been doing this over and over and over and over. And it's the same result every, gotta watch my words, time.
Every time.
And I have decided that I am done. I am done. I am not signing back up for that again. I am done. When I
definition of insanity, Keith,
yes.
The same thing over and over again.
Absolutely.
Result.
Absolutely. When I meet somebody, I meet somebody. It might be tomorrow. It might be next year. I don't know. It'd be nice to have a tracking number. But interesting. I was talking to a young lady about a year ago. And we, there was a mutual interest. And then all of a sudden she disappeared. I'm like, what the heck did I do? Repeat pattern. I got blocked. She's just gone. That brought up the trauma from the other one doing the same thing. Okay, I worked through that. That actually helped me heal a little bit. But it turns out it was Facebook. That was when they were doing the social experiment of removing your friends without you knowing it, putting them on the blocked list, bouncing them back and forth on the block list from yours to theirs to see how you would react. And I'm at work a couple months ago on break, 10-minute break, scrolling TikTok. Whoa, there she is. So I took a quick screenshot, headed back in. I was going to get a hold of her later, say, hey, you okay? What's up? And next thing I know, she sends me a message on TikTok. Are you still mad at me? I'm like, what do you mean? So we conversated and we figured it out, and we've been talking a little bit. I asked the question, hey, is this just a friendship thing or possibly a little bit more in the future? And she's like, I am interested. However, this is where I'm at. I'm not ready right now. Okay, cool. No problem. Thank you for that truth. I appreciate that. That's simple. We're still friends. We're not mad at each other. We still support and help each other. And that's the way it should be. Beating around the bush, keeping somebody on a leash because you need attention all the time, that's BS.
I think that our actions have consequences that we will eventually face. And I have had that because I was dating someone for a while, and then that relationship ended. I actually ended up dating someone who was their best friend. Not my best move in life, I have to say, not my best move whatsoever. But you know what? I've always faced my demons head on. I was in a very different place, in a very bad place at the time. Ended up, and this was the toxic on off one. But I eventually ended up having to face my consequences of deciding to date this person's, and everything it brought. And I took it. I said, like, bring it on, took it on because I faced my demons. And I think that our consequences do have actions. As you reap, so you sow. As you treat someone, you will have it back. If you're coming and going and ghosting and breadcrumbing and being like this, it's going to happen to you. It will happen to you, because the one factor you can say in life is that it does happen. You go, oh my God, it's coming back to bite me over there. And karmic relationships, a karmic relationship is a connection forged over multiple lifetimes. And they are very intense and volatile partnerships. And they're almost addictive sometimes. Sometimes they can be not the most healthiest for you, but the feeling is so strong between you that it's almost impossible to leave this situation. But as I said, not everyone has a bad situation that comes out of these karmic relationships. But for me, I know what goes around comes around, and it's like a bouncing ball. I knew one day I was going to have to face my demon, and I did face it. And I'm so glad I did face my demon, because I cleared my karma. I mean, that doesn't mean that everything was wonderful, because it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't. There was a lot of hurt, and it was very, very painful. But at the same time, I cleared that karma.
I'll be right back.
So literally, that's fine, Michael. But the thing is, Keith, I don't know about you, is that, do you think we're also settling for less important relationships these days? We seem to be just going, oh, I just want to, we're so, COVID come along and we were all on our own a lot more, and it's separated from each other. And do you think that we're settling for more than we deserve these days?
I think a lot of people are. That is something I have looked at myself. I'd be interested in notice I was interested in somebody, and I'd watch their behavior, and I'm like, now wait a minute. That's what you're trying to get away from. Are you settling so you don't have to be alone again? I asked myself that question, and turns out I was probably starting to, but I caught it. I've been through that pattern enough. I used to jump from one relationship to the next one. Like I said, never lived alone until Shannon left. Kids were out of the house, and then all of a sudden I'm living alone here in a haunted house that used to be a morgue twice, getting attacked every night by things I can't see. It was an interesting transition and lesson, but now I prefer to be by myself, because I know I'm never alone. I've got my spirit guides. I've got friends I can pick up and call, what have you. I got my dog. I got my cat. I'm never alone. But sometimes I prefer to be by myself instead of with someone that is not meant for me. Because it's one thing to be lonely, but it's a whole nother level to be lonely sitting right next to your partner.
And it can feel like that can't it, Michael? I mean, you can really feel like that with someone you love and you're with them and you just feel like, wow, I feel so alone in this situation.
Yeah, right now your dog is trying to get out here because he just feels like he's abused and lonely too. I'm sitting over here threatening him with the fingers and the clicks, and sometimes I tell him you go home and cuddle with the dog, but sometimes they just feel good to be little spoon and let somebody else hold you for a minute. Because I tell him, I said at the end of the day, I pet a lot of ears and hold a lot of paws, and but at the end of the day, it's good for your soul because and that's why I said you got to be.
They don't hurt you. They don't let you down. They don't betray you, and they don't stick a knife in your back because karma, boys, can do serious harm.
And
it's all about you can then become. It can mentally unravel you. This constant. Am I wanted? Am I not wanted? Is there something here? Is it real? Is it love? Are they going to do this to happen? Is this going to happen again? What if I get with them again and this happens again? It starts to send you down a spiral staircase, and you start going, did I do something to deserve this treatment? Is it me? Did I say something? And I think that's when it becomes codependent as well. There's also this codependency, like I've got to be with this person. I'm nothing. And that's how I felt. I was saying to somebody this afternoon, when I was younger, I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, I accepted lesser relationships because I thought I wasn't worthy of something more important. Why do we do that? Why do we do that?
Low self-esteem or something like that. That's what I'm thinking, because you're not really confident on who you are, and you think you deserve less.
It was embedded.
Like with my kid's mom. I figured I was, that was my life. I'm here to be abused and kicked. And it takes you for a long time to get over that, and it comes back to how you was raised and the things you see. And I tell people it is hard to believe what some people can get used to be. That's what they call normal, or this is the way life normally is, or this is how this is. And it's
it's crazy. You mentioned how you're raised. You can be raised in a family, not realize that you've been traumatized being raised by that family, come out of it with a very low self-esteem, and then you marry someone and they are constantly putting you down, saying you suck in bed, you can't do this, you can't do that, you don't do anything right, and it brainwashes you. So then when you get into the next relationship, you're always thinking, okay, am I doing good enough? Am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? And you just fall back into that spiral, and it causes toxicity and issues in that new relationship. And if you have abandonment issues, you will start pushing that person away so that you don't get abandoned again. It's a vicious cycle. So you have to heal all aspects of what your issues are as well as you can before you get into that final relationship. You want to do all the healing you can because you want to be a better person for that other person. I do. I want to be a better person than I've ever been in my life.
But from a spiritual point of view, let's look at that. If you believe that you had a connection with this person in a previous life and you've both agreed to come back down this time and resolve it and have this unfinished business between you, if you've agreed to do that in a previous lifetime, if you believe in this situation with karma, then you don't know that because you're not privy to that previous information, because they're very clever. They remove that very good information before we come down here. And we're looking at this person going, you feel so familiar. There's something about you that I just can't put my finger on. And the next thing you know, like the person that felt so amazing, so wonderful, has stabbed you, and you're like, I couldn't possibly ask for this. Why would I say to them, I want to go through this? Because you're a human being at that point, without realizing we're a spirit in a human being having a human experience. So we don't remember the conversation about, I actually wanted to come down and have this lesson. How do we know what lessons they are? We don't know what lessons we were programmed to come and learn.
it seems like it's a cruel joke. You know, it's like you get dropped in here without no owner's manual on how to get from point A to point B. You got to figure it out the rough way. And it's like, and people tell me, you know, before you come down, you know who your parents are going to be. You know what relationships you're going to be. And you know what I'm saying? It's almost like it's blueprinted out. And you agree to all the trials and tribulations, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
I'm kicking myself.
I must have been drunk that day. Because I would have never agreed to this shit. And everybody's like, Michael, you can't say that. You know, I'm like, no. I said, I think the universe made only one of me the way I am. And I think I agreed to have an open opinion too. And that's all I said. I don't, you know, it's like, oh, and every time it's like, oh, this is going, it's like when I told somebody, I'm looking for my forever home. You know, I've been put in the pound so many times. I'm like that poor old dog. You know, I'll sit there and I promise I won't hump your leg and I'll be a good boy and not tear up your house. You know, and and you know, just waiting for the forever home. And not the forever box. That's something different. You know, you don't want that one.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. You know, and that's like when you say up for adoption. I want to get me a necklace and put that around my neck. Please don't beat me. I'm well trained. I'm housebroken.
You mean like Paddington Bear, please adopt me. You know,
Yeah, please, yeah.
But I think as well though, if we have to learn something about ourselves is in the fact that I look back and I think wisdom and hindsight are the best tools ever, because you look back to your 20s and 30s and go, oh, I get it now. I understand.
You remember your 20s and 30s?
Well, you know, maybe my 40s as well, actually. Let's be honest, my 40s as well, right? But
I remember them better than my 20s.
Karmic connection brings lessons. You know, if we believe we are sentient beings that have come down to have a human experience in this incarnation, as Keith, as Michael, as Wendy, whatever, that our spirit knows the journey. It knows what it's planned to do. It knows what it's meant to do down here. And that's why I say sometimes you'll go somewhere and you'll gotta go, oh, I don't like the feeling of this. You know, this is not what you should be doing. You're going, shut up, and I'm going to go and do it. And then the other time, you'll go somewhere and you'll be like, oh, I don't feel like this. But there's also the ones that challenge us, that also help us grow. Mm-hmm. So it's that balance situation, isn't it, to actually find exception. And how do we know when we've learnt the lesson, when we've learnt the karma? How do we know, especially if we have more than one? I mean, if we end up going with 6 or 7 people, I tell you what, let's do it all in one lifetime.
Yeah. What was it? Valerie's talking about a fear of water or something or another. She's talking about the Titanic that she would love to go over, but she was so afraid of having the water under her that she would be like a Mad Hatter. And I'm thinking, you know, that might be something from a past life that you need to get over. And so, you know, so it could be trauma, it could be relationships. The universe is a strange, fickle beast. And I tell people we're all energy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Cannot either be created or destroyed.
Not wrong.
That, you know, said that. And I'm like, yeah. And that's when I said, you know, like you said, some of the places you go and you're like, I've never been here, but it feels like home. Same people, you know, never met this person, but you feel that instant connection, like you could, you know, just pour your heart out to them with no judgment. And it's just, then, like you said, the other time you meet people and you're like, oh, that's a weird duck, you know, something about that person. I just need to, you know,
I often wonder and question, and I question a lot these days. Rapid says, you know, when you've learned the lesson, when you refuse to do it again. Good point, Rapid. Good point. I think that's a very good point. When you reach a point, and I think age, if I may say so, age is actually an indicator of that, because I think you get to that point. Well, why is it we should be like Benjamin Button? We should start off old with wise and then as we get older, get younger, and actually, like, you know, be like babies. Because why is it youth is wasted on the young? Like, I look back and see all those years I wasted on relationships and friendships and situations that didn't bring me anything but pain, and I would do it again and again. I would pick the same kind of friend again and again. I would pick up the same kind of relationship again and again. And this, you know, some friendships you still have that hope that it will turn around. It's you know, because this can happen in, as Michael and I were talking about it, Keith, friendships. It's not just relationships. This is, you know, this is relationships, friendships, etc. And what about, you know, using this example, can you have a karmic situation with family member?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Friends, family, doesn't matter.
I've often wondered about that. You know, like, you know, I've lost my dad here a while back, and, you know, I lost my mom before that. And you always wonder if it's the same parent-child relationship ever go around, or if it swaps up. Next time I might be their parent instead of them being my parent.
True.
Yep.
And I
Very,
often wonder, and I've often wondered about that. I'm like, wonder how that works, or like siblings or stuff like that. And it's like,
I think, as I said, we come down here to learn lessons, and what they are, we have no idea, because that part is hidden. If we're lucky, we might get some. But, you know, I often wonder about my spirit inside me, who must be completely frustrated in so many ways, going, really, Wendy, really? Or it literally is encouraging me and rooting for me. I wish I could have I know you say you can have a conversation with yourself, but would it be great just to have them sit there on the table with you or in the bar and go, so what did you really think about this? And they go, well, actually, you know, it would be great to have that common sense, that revealing chat, to absolutely know what we're meant to learn. And my own connection with my own dad has been incredibly difficult. It's a very difficult relationship, and as much as I love them, it's very difficult. And you wonder what if there was previous karma stuff there that hadn't been sorted out. And you know, it's my actually, people know I've been married twice. My first husband we have an amazing connection between us, really, really good friends. And I knew him. I have known him since I was 13, but I know I've known him before. I know I've had other lives with him before. And it's like, I'm probably one of the only people he stayed in touch with, even though I'm his ex-wife. And they think, it's almost like if I haven't heard from him a while, there'd be this like, oh my God, are you okay? You know, there's this concern and worry. And yet, you know, sometimes we can't reach out to that person that we want to clear the karma with, that we want to resolve. We can't reach out to them because A, they don't talk to us, B, they've blocked us, or C, we don't know what to do. We don't know. How do we live with it then? How do we live with it, trying to clear that karma, if we can't do it with that person?
sometimes I think you just got to clear your own, and you cannot clear somebody else's garbage. You know what I'm saying? That they put in their life. That is something they have to work on. You know, we can't fix the whole world. I tried that.
Don't work.
And that goes back to, like, you talking about guardian angels and your spirit guides. My mom always said, Michael, you're the only person I know that put your guardian angel on Xanax. And I'm like, why? She's like, because you just do whatever you want and you don't care about the consequences. And I told her, I said, Mom, I said, I'm a free spirit. She said, no, you're an idiot. And I'm like, okay, but I look back at that, and I often think, you know, being the way I am is that I was probably very, very repressed in a previous life, and this time around, I thought, you know, I want to get out there and I want to see the world. I want to do what makes me happy, and, you know,
But
fulfill.
if you don't clear the karma, you're going to calm down and do it again? Or are you going to decide this is the thing we don't know? Or are we going to decide, well, you know, I don't want to do it? Because surely as a spirit, we want to clear that karma for our own growth and our own enlightenment. So what happens if you cannot? What happens if you cannot clear it in this lifetime? I don't know about you guys, but I'm not sure I want to keep coming down trying to clear that karma and learning that same lesson. I'm really not sure I want to do that.
I'm
So
done.
you keep coming back until you get it cleared out, until you figure it
No.
out.
I'm done.
It's like Pac-Man, and you got to hit the the redo button. But like I said, I think we have a set agenda when we come down each time that we've agreed to, and you got to clear what bad energy or good energy that you have put out for you to do, and learn your life lessons, as they say, and
Good point. I mean, karmic relationships, reading this point here, are rooted in the concept of karma from Eastern philosophies. They believe a connection between individuals that transcends one lifetime and is shaped by the consequences of past actions. And so for your personal growth, these relationships offer you a unique opportunity to learn and develop towards your own enlightenment. And therefore, they will bring forward triggers, unresolved issues, lessons from previous life or even this life, maybe a previous relationship in this life. Say you were married to someone else and you meet someone else, and for all you know, it triggers that relationship, not because in a bad way, but triggers all this stuff that you've not cleared, and it's bringing it all up. And it's like you've got to clear the crap from the past before you can move on in the present. And I think that any relationship that brings a chance to address and overcome a challenge that has persisted potentially through multiple incarnations is a good thing to do. And I certainly think when I go over, I'm actually going to sit down and go, now listen, I'm done. I am not going down again. And I'm sorry, but it's done. Because I do feel like I've had karmic relationships with family, with friends, with lovers, with partners, and some of them I'm glad that, I mean, the one I talk about, the one where I cleared with my ex when I dated, his friend. I'm glad I cleared that. I don't mean I feel like something shifted. It's a really weird thing to say, but I actually felt like there was something lift off me, like it was a big heavy cloak on my shoulders, and all of a sudden, after facing the demon, it was cleared, and so hopefully for them too, so we can all move on. I'm really glad that you guys could come on and chat, because Val obviously is not feeling at all well tonight, and I'm so grateful. And Keith, it's been so long since we've seen you. Where you been?
Here, there, everywhere, working, doing other shows, trying to work on the house, yard. Finally got my dental implants, so that's helping my health a little bit. So I've been working on that. So just a little bit of everything.
I'm still fighting mine.
Been doing some more healing. So I've been secluded in my Scorpio cave a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with that. You were talking about soul contracts earlier. We don't get when we come down, we don't know what we signed up for.
No.
And but in the last few years, working on healing myself, I used to think that I was cursed with bad relationships. No, I chose the relationships. Okay. I'm the one that got myself into that. I'm the one that kept myself into it. And then I'm the one that got into another one. However, I also have to say now, I didn't used to be, but now I am thankful for every one of them, because every one of them taught me something.
Sure.
And it taught me how not to be, how not to talk, how not to think, how not to act if I want to be a better person. So I am thankful for every person that has been through my life. Do I have a place for all of them in my life now? No, I do not. Thank you very much. I wish you well, but I wish you well from way over here.
I know what you mean, though, because I feel like I have not been able to put a foot right in my own life for months. It has been, and I had my chart done recently, and the astrologer said to me, my God, Wendy, it feels like one thing's happened, then another thing, and then it's constant. I've been constantly ill. Ill. Then I've had, like, my car was broken into, then my car was hit, then my mobile phone was stolen with everything in it, and then just bad stuff going on, with people I love, and relationships, friendships, etc. And it's like, and my health, certainly my health, and I know this is a year of purging and everything, but it feels like enough, enough now, time out, because I think we can only cope with so much, and I was saying earlier on today, you come on Wicked Women, and obviously we're here to talk about a great topic, and you put your face on, and you're because you're presenting a show. Underneath, it's a very different scenario, and but I think when it feels like, when is this karma? What is, someone put a curse on me because I cannot seem to put a foot right?
No, there's no curse.
It's just life. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes life kicks you in the gut. No matter, like I said, no matter how hard you try, it's just one thing after the other. But it goes back to what Garth Brooks said, about the dance. That if I knew all the pain, would I'd have still done the dance. There's not many things in these things that I like, but I kind of understand that. You never want to miss out on the dance because of the pain that could come later.
I don't know, not quite lately. I think I do want to opt out of it. I mean, Keith, I know Mercury's been retrograde. I know Venus has been retrograde as well, and they're moving forward. I think Mars as well. I think Mars is playing up. And for Capricorns, we've had a really tough time because Pluto's been in our sign for so long, and it's buggered off now, finally, after 2 years. But it just feels like, when is this gonna, yeah. Thanks, Rapid. I could be paying my forefathers' karmic debt. Absolutely. It feels like that.
And we got the pink moon coming up too. So we got a full moon with all that energy, and it's supposed to be the pink moon. I got a new telescope, and it's been cloudy and crappy, and I haven't been able to get a good picture of it. But people ask me, Michael, why do you look at the moon for? I said, it helps me gauge how the crazies are going to be. I said, the closer the moon, the more the crazies come out,
What's your take on it, Keith?
With the astrology right now, there is so much going on. Me and Joni have been talking about it on the Outer's Den every other Monday. And 2025 is absolutely nuts. Now, is it nuts in a bad way? Is it nuts in a good way? It depends on where you are in your life and how you are looking at things. If you can ask yourself, what is this teaching me instead of why is this happening to me, you're going to be on the top side of things. All of the planets are moving into new signs, including the 5 outers that move so slowly. And they will move into the new sign, and then some of them are going to retrograde and go back into the old sign to review if they missed anything that they need to take care of, and then move back into the new sign for the next period. And the outer planets move slow. This has never happened in our lifetime. We are going through something totally new. The universe is resetting itself. It is rejoining timelines that were separated and hijacked to where we are supposed to be instead of where we were heading. We were supposed to have a catastrophic extinction level solar flare this year. However, when they did the sea lockdowns, it backfired on them, and a lot of us grew and raised our vibration and learned, which raised the collective's vibration, which raised the Earth's vibration. And therefore, when the sun flare did happen, we're still here. Now we're on a better timeline. And if we're patient, and I know that word, patience, things are going to get a lot better. It's going to take going into 2026 for things to actually be noticeable to everybody. But you need to be flexible. You need to be able to let things flow. Because if, something bad happens to you, you get something stolen or what have you, you got to look at, okay, well, this has given me the opportunity to get something different that I might like better, say a car or a job. And if you've been asking the universe for a new job without the contingency of keeping my current job, you might get fired, so you have to go find a new job. So you really want to be specific when you're trying to manifest and when you're asking the universe or something. Same with full moons are for releasing. New moons are for manifesting, bringing new things into your life. But when the eclipses happen on the new moon or full moon, I don't do anything because that energy is so chaotic. You don't know what the universe is going to do.
It's supposed to be a stinker this month. The 20th of April keeps being brought up. Why am I still hearing always about the 20th of April? What is going on around that time?
I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard anything about the 20th.
There's quite a few things that, I was looking on social media about the 20th of April. And I follow a very good astrologer called Steve Judd. And he said, his quote was, the first 4 months of this year are going to be stinkers. So we're in the fourth month now. And I have to be honest, it has been a stinker. It's just been, you come right into January, brand new year. It's all, and it's just shit, tough. And I think, you're waving a white flag going, I've had enough now, stop. And my astrologer's like, well, I think it's going to be till July, Wendy, until you get this sorted till July. But for me, it's certainly been a very dark night of the soul in many of my journeys. I have been in, talking about karma and stuff. And I actually think to myself, was I meant to go through this? Is this something I was meant to go through? Is this really? And it's been, when you go into those dark nights of the soul and you just feel like I can't see the light, I feel so low. I know my own vibration has become quite low. Being an empath, being a clairvoyant, using, and that's the thing I've noticed when I go to Calgary, when I go into Canada's energy, my psychic energy just goes massive and lifts so high. Like I don't know what it is. I just feel like, wow. And then I come back into London and it lowers. It's quite depressing, actually.
That could be the energy of the land itself, for one thing. I was watching a show the other day on scientifically provable energy anomalies on this planet. There's an Alaskan triangle. People just disappear. Planes just disappear. The Bermuda Triangle. We can scientifically prove things. One of the theories on Loch Ness is there's an underwater portal and a plesiosaur is swimming through time and, oh, look, here I am, and then swimming back. It's possible. There's also down, I think, South America, they have found fresh footprints of a dinosaur. And they literally came through a portal. And when you walk up to this area, you can feel the energy. Stonehenge, we don't know what that was used for. We just got the new information on the pyramids. There are structures 4,000 feet down. There are structures 2,000 feet down, 8 pillars with a spiral going down it. It looks like a giant electronic device, or those could be stairs. That could be a well hollow inside. We don't know. And they go into boxes in the bottom. But the water table used to flow over those boxes and through those boxes. Now, one of the working theories is the water would vibrate that granite. And there's quartz in granite. And when you put pressure on quartz, it makes piezoelectric electricity. When you start your barbecue grill and you press that button and you get that spark, there's a quartz crystal in there. That's what makes the spark. So it ignites energy. It goes up into the pyramid. And
I found that fascinating when I saw that, because I just thought, I always knew that the pyramids were probably not built by the Egyptians.
Correct.
And literally have been there. And the same about Stonehenge and I think it's Avebury. Is it Avebury as well? Avebury over here. But it's like, I don't believe, if I have this conversation this afternoon, I actually don't believe that what we're told. A lot of it is what they've wanted us to know, what they've wanted us to tell. And I think the more that we start to delve in and look at that side of things, this is not being a conspiracy theorist, it's actually wanting to find the truth of our background, who we really are, where we really come from. Do we come from Earth? Were we brought here? Like our forefathers, I tend to think they probably did they call Earth the training planet, don't they? They call it that you're learning all your lessons down here on Earth.
Yeah. They call Earth also the prison planet.
That's right.
And the reason they do that is because when God of the Bible created man, the twin flame story is we had 2 faces, 4 arms, 4 legs, but we became too strong. We were created in our creator's, notice the plural, image. Even the Bible says that. Let us create man in our image, not in mine, in our image. There were multiple gods. This one just got an ego trip. But man was becoming too powerful because we realized that we were divine. We were more divine than this God over here that was angry and controlling. And so what he did was he split us into 2 halves, your male and your female, in order to cause division and separation. And then he wanted to have the world that the other gods lived in. So what he would do, he could see it, but he couldn't get there. So he would pull their light essence and put it into what he made. And he would trap that. So we are trapped souls, trapped light beings. And when we pass, we return, and then he nabs us and sticks us into a new mud body, dirt body.
That's right, the reincarnation trap, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I go, him and I are going to have a conversation, and he's going to get told exactly where he can go.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't actually know now when I go where I'm going or what I'm doing, who I'm going to have a conversation with. But interesting point you brought up about the portals, because Geneva, is it there? I was watching, and as I said, I listen, and like you listen to a lot of things about some believing that Geneva is where they're doing that, trying to work out where the Big Bang started. They're trying to open portals. And there is some book about Satan or something being in Switzerland and that being the headquarters and that lot. Have you heard about that, Keith?
Not a lot. Well,
they're trying to stimulate, aren't they, the Big Bang and open portals. And because if you do open a portal, where's that going to lead us to? What can you bring in as well as going out?
We don't know. We have no idea. And if they do, they're not telling us. I think they need to be very careful with that. I understand the technology, understand what they're attempting to do, understand how everything is, why everything is. One of the things that the CERN experiments have proven to us is that nothing is solid. This desk, I can knock on it. I can grab it. I can feel it, but it is not solid.
No.
The atoms in here.
That's right.
There is space between the protons, the neutrons, everything. And then in those, there are smaller particles where there is space. It's nothing. And quantum entanglement says that if I pound my fist on this desk, I can affect something across the universe. They can take a proton, cut it in half, send it 30 miles down the road, do something to this one, and the exact same thing happens to the other one who is a control at the exact same time. No time lapse, nothing, not microseconds, anything, at the exact same time. That is quantum entanglement. That is how, when your soul vibes with another soul, you know, oh, hey, she's going to call, and your phone rings, and there she is. Or
yes, exactly.
You know that you need to call, hey, what's up? What's wrong?
You wake up and there's that voice in your head saying, text them, call them. And I often hear songs while I'm asleep at night. It drives me crazy. A song goes over and over in my head. And I wake up and I'm like, what is the point? What are you trying to tell me? What is the point of this song? And I look at the lyrics, so I note it down, and I'm just like, go away. And it's interesting because I think we're in a very interesting time of transition in the world. It's also a very dangerous time because transition is unpredictable and volatile, and we're all learning. We're all trying to find our way. Like Mark and I had a conversation briefly about, and I said to him, I actually wonder if spirit, there are two different things, ghosts and spirit, but, at the end of the day, what if a ghost, using that as an example, is a time slip? So what actually you're seeing is a time slip for 1 minute. You're actually slipping into that time. And can they see you? Can they see you and go, who's that person? But you never hear that. You never hear in history documents of anyone saying, I had a ghostly experience. They didn't talk about it back then.
No. You were put away if you talked about it. My grandmother on my dad's side, she was put away for schizophrenia. She didn't have schizophrenia; she had gifts. That is where I get mine from.
Yes, my grandma's like that too.
When my team was investigating a multi-unit apartment building that has been abandoned for years, one thing that we noticed on the EVPs that we caught, I used to be able to play them on here, but I lost them in the fire. They would say things like, "Did you see that? Did you hear that? Did you hear somebody talking? They said, how old are you?" It was like they are still there living in that apartment in 1960, going about their lives, and we are infiltrating them. We are haunting them.
Yeah.
So that is two timelines intersecting. The energy from both of those timelines is intersecting in the same spot at two different times in 2 different years, 2 different decades. And it really blew my mind when I was, the way I thought about the paranormal. You always hear people talking of seeing a lady in a Victorian dress, with all the big hoops and everything. Why don't we see, Cindy from 1976, with a bell bottoms on?
Sure.
There's a good story that's out of the UK. The guy's redoing his basement, and there's a legion of Roman soldiers that are walking, and when they dug down, they actually found the bottom of where the old Roman road was. He's like, these people are marching and their knees are in the dirt. And when they did some more remodeling, they dug down, and sure enough, there was the Roman road.
Nice.
And there's another one where the guy flew over, and there's a World War I airstrip, and it was during World War II. And he's like, and a lot of times I think violence and stuff like that can, anything that can bring chaos into the world, like a world war, and I think that's when I'm in the Gettysburg. You can still hear the cannons fire in the distance.
Yeah.
And I saw apparitions go across, and I'm thinking, these guys are still fighting this battle every day. And being an old soldier, I'm thinking that would be a hell of a way to do it. Eternity is sitting there loading the cannons and pouring shot, to the other side. But
it's also like Groundhog Day, though, isn't it? That you're doing the same thing. And it's interesting about being trapped here, and karma, because if we look at karma, right, how do we ever learn from karma if we got to come down again because we're trapped?
Well, one thing is we can, in this lifetime, in my lifetime right now, if I clear karma from this lifetime and heal from it, I am also clearing it and healing it from my past lifetimes if that was something I was supposed to do there. Spirit guide's like, hey, you finally did it. Awesome. Good job. Don't forget. So that's one thing that we can count on. But I've been through, I swear, about every lesson there is on both sides of the situation, and I'm really kind of not wanting to go through any more lessons. I'm kind of done with them. I just want to live my life in peace and help people and be happy in my garden and my fruit trees and my dog and my cat and maybe a girlfriend someday. I don't know.
It's interesting how we go off in a tangent about certain things, and I know Mark often says the words, is that I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you, because apparently that releases quite a lot of I can't remember what he said, but it releases something from you the more you say it. And before I go, because I was thinking about, you were talking about the dinosaur print, Bigfoot. I have to talk about Bigfoot just for a second because it drives me insane. And I know we're totally off the comment now, but it's like we are in a 2025, drones, mobile phones, amazing cameras, that go all the way out. Not one single picture or video clear of them.
I have an idea on that.
Go on.
Hear me out. It's a little crazy, but hear me out. The octopus. Okay. The octopus is the master of camouflage. It can be on a gray and green rock. You can't see it. It gets up. You can see it. It goes over on a red and blue rock, and all of a sudden it's red and blue. They think that the octopus may be from another world, not here, because of the way its DNA is structured. It is a master of camouflage. Now, what if another type of animal has developed the same type of camouflage, or has figured out somehow to mentally bend light so that you see around it? You can be standing right in front of one, and the scientists have done this. They can literally hide somebody that's standing right in front of you by bending the light around them. You can't see them. So, I mean, there's a few different things that come to mind, but I think he's just the absolute hide and seek champion.
I was going to say, Brooks, you
I
mentioned
don't understand why anyone wants to go look for him.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I don't understand why anyone wants to go and look for him, because basically, what if you did find him and he's right there in front of you? I'm not sure I'd want that.
No, I'm not sure I would either.
I'd be like, no, you're all right. Off you go. It's like hunting for a grizzly bear, and the next thing you know, it's right in front of you, and you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't done that now. And I think that we need to. I think we need to do a Wicked Women on paranormal and other sort of stuff as well, because, Scotty and I, we were hoping to do quite a lot on Robertson, but obviously I'm not sure when he's going to be able to come back. But I know Val and I want to. And one person we're very interested to look at is Jack the Ripper, for sure, because there's such a scandal about who or what. If there was, a lot of it was Fleet Street writing letters as well to scare the public and sell papers as well. So it's very interesting to do stuff like that. And I was just, talking about karma and everything tonight, and then thinking about if we are on this planet that's we're trapped and we can't get off, how. So we're like, so I'm with Billy and Bob and Janet and Jane or whatever, and they're like, okay, this is the lessons you're going to learn, and then you come down and you just fuck it up and you don't learn that lesson. It's like, oh shit, I've got to go and do it again now, and it could be worse next time.
Absolutely.
And I'm very conscious of my words now, saying without consequences, without anything bad happening, please don't let anything happen, because at the same time, they just showed who Jack the Ripper's identity was. There's lots of different rumors about. I think the DNA, has come along a long way. But for instance, I think the energy of Jack the Ripper lives on very much when you go down. I don't know if you've ever been over here and been to Whitechapel.
No, I have not. But I have spoken with Jeff Mudgett. I've had him on my show. Yeah. If you're going to do a show on Jack the Ripper, let me know. I will put him in touch with you, and
sure.
Man that you want on your show.
Yeah, there's a gentleman over here that wrote a book as well about him, and I'd like to have them both on, because I think they are aware of each other. But I do think that Jack the Ripper was, if you think about it, Fleet Street had just started printing newspapers. And I think that the letter that was written in red is definitely written by somebody in the press to actually get things selling. That's it sold. But I think what happened to those poor women is, it very much comes up at the time of life in Victorian England. Poor, money was, no money, no home. What did you do with yourself? You were out on the street. You either drank to oblivion to keep warm, or you sell your body, etc., or you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, like Mary Kelly was in the end. So it's something I do want. And when we talk about Jack the Ripper, have you ever noticed the energy changes around you when you talk about Jack the Ripper? Because it's a very negative energy. And even though we talk about it and you try and make it interesting, I've noticed that a lot of times people talk about it, the energy changes around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very dark. It's very, like you said, cosmically dark. It is something that is like a stain on a timeline, and it's
Sure.
like when you talk about like any of the, was it? I can't. Yeah, it was Wicked Women, where they're talking about the woman who had all the lovers that shot her husband, and the last woman to be put to death in England.
Ruth Ellis, yeah.
Yeah, when you talk about her, you know, it is a very, very dark energy, and it's like, I don't know, right
Well,
now.
newspapers sell, don't they? And let's be honest, with Ruth Ellis, yeah, again, that was another, you know, you look back at the time, we'll look back at this time that we're in, when COVID and everything happened, and you look back at the things they did to sell newspapers to make things go a certain way. So I do think the paranormal is, and all these things are
Good news
interesting
don't sell
to talk
papers.
about.
You know,
So I'm gonna have to set it up, and you guys are gonna have to come on. And Keith, you're so full of information and interesting stuff, as Michael is. And sometimes you sit there and you go, "Wow, I didn't know that. I really didn't know that." But I'm also, you know, interested as well with you know, Val was talking about cults as well. We talked about before, looking at cults, and especially you have to be careful with certain things you say and do now about certain things like that, because you know, words are spells. You are talking about certain energies. Like when we were talking about Aleister Crowley, I remember when we were doing Aleister Crowley as on Wicked Women, the energy changed around us, and things, and it's really weird, as we were talking about him, things were starting to happen here, like things were just moving and getting and coming off the table, then had no reason to happen, and you were like, you know, and where I live is quite active. You know, it's quite an old building. The land is quite old, and obviously quite a lot in England is old. But literally, people have seen, you know, women in white go through, like as if they're in the world of their own, just walking through this room, using this as an example. And you know, Henry used to look at things that were not there, and he'd growl, and he'd be really like the whole teeth would be up, glaring at something that wasn't there, and all your hair would go up on the back of your neck. But since then, you know, things have. I had a lot of house clearing done. So, but I think we should. I think we should look at something like that. I think it'd be really good to do something with the paranormal. You know, Val and I have talked about it before, and you know, people were saying, can you look at this subject, or can you do that? And we wanted to do the karmic one because we kept saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and now it has. And I think with Easter coming up as well, pagan, that is also another Easter, isn't it? Easter, a pagan holiday. Everyone follows the fluffy Easter bunny, because I actually have, and I will save that. I will save that because I have a story about what happened to me when I was young with Easter, and all I can say is that Donnie Darko has nothing on this, right? Because if you remember the film Donnie Darko with the rabbit, something happened to me like that. So maybe we'll talk about that next week, but it was quite scary. So I've really enjoyed this chat because it's gone from karma to other things. And I'm going to taking your comments tonight, Keith, about the trap planet. How the fuck do we clear? Oh God, if they're going to send us back down again.
Okay, here's the thing. Jesus, there's no doubt in my mind he was a real person. He disappeared for, say, 37 years. He doesn't appear in the Bible for 37 years. He went and traveled. He went to Egypt. He learned the ways of the ascended masters. He learned Reiki healing. And he came back, and he could do all these, quote, miracles. He could do this. And he told his disciples and everyone else, if you follow my ways, you can do these things and more. He knew that he was not, quote, the God of the Bible's son, but the true creator's son, spirit. And he knew that he was created in his Father's image. He was immortal. He was light. He was a light being. He knew what he was. And he was trying to teach everybody else. And that is the secret to escaping. That is the key to the door of the prison, is understanding who and what you really are and what you are really capable of. Because that is why we go through everything in the 3D life. Keeps us busy so we don't refigure that out. Adam and Eve figured it out, and they were punished. They were banned from the Garden of Eden because they ate from the tree of knowledge, and that allowed them to realize we are divine beings. Nope, get out of here. You're done.
Nobody eat any apples. And if you do, and you get it from a woman, because you know how bad the Bible treats women, obviously, because we're all so naughty in the Bible. All the women in the Bible are so naughty.
Yeah, Lilith. You know, Eve was not Adam's first wife. Lilith was. And she wanted equality. And they wouldn't give it to her. So she went off and started making demons. So the story goes.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because you actually wonder, there's the truth, there's their truth, you know, which is the truth, and it's fascinating. So I go to bed when I finish these conversations, and it's like my brain is going over this. But just want to thank you guys so much for coming on, and Michael, thank you, and Keith, because I know Val will be grateful you guys come on, because she really isn't feeling too well. So, and it's like having the whole gang back, you know. It's like, you know, just catching up and chatting. So thank you very much, and I hope that we've helped it be an interesting program, not just about karmic love and karma, but about lots of other topics as well. So let's go for the next one. What are we going to talk about next time? We've done Bigfoot, we've done Adam and Eve, we've done Jack the Ripper, we've done paranormal. We've got it's all on one show.
Portals to warmer places. That's what I'm saying. When I come out here, I told Wendy, I said, you know, I'll just do it out here. You know, everything's in chaos here. And it was warm when I sat down here. I was in a hoodie, and I thought, I'll pull this off. And I'm like, just sitting here for like 2 hours. The temperature's dropped. I'm like, nope, I got to get my fuzzy jacket on. Like, I'm like, it's Easter. I should be in shorts and flip flops.
I know.
Yeah.
It is bad. But in the meantime, Val, we hope you feel better soon. Yes. And listen, Keith, come back and see us. Hopefully we will be here next week. I have no idea what's happening anymore with other people's shows. I think Scotty will be back when he's up for it. I think KB will be around when he's up to it. And I know, Keith, you've got your shows on. What days are they?
Every other Monday at 7 o'clock on Facebook on the Otter's Den.
The Otter's Den. What a great name. And what I want to say is have a great week. Have a safe week. I hope we've made all those brain cells start thinking about certain things. And thanks, guys. See you both soon.
Thank you.
Bye, loves. Bye.